I decided to move things to online instruction. So how did I go about doing that? Well, I heard about CETLA, they had Blackboard, and then I heard about Blackboard being able to be used to do some video or lecture capturing. And so that's what I did. So I started with Blackboard. And the first thing I did was there was this thing called course redesign. And I said, I need to redesign my entire course. How do I present what I put on there? So I started to look at doing some audio information and learning modules where it gives the students step-by-step approaches. And as they go through those steps, they can take assessments. And then if they don't do well, it doesn't make them move any further. They have to get to a certain point to move to the next level. And so I was learning some of that in that course redesign. Then I did some, assessments or testing. That would let me see where they were before they were entering into the class, so I would have an idea of what I was dealing with and who I was dealing with in regards to those individuals. And so then we did assignments. But back then it was called Dropbox. Anybody remember Dropbox? Yeah, so you put it in a little box and then they updated it, and so you could just put it directly into the source. And then I looked at the discussions, started adding some discussions, and one of the things I wanted to do with my students was they would always come to me confused with certain things like I showed you. And I said, as I was talking to them, what is it that we're missing? And I realized they did not have the definitions of my material clear. It was like a new language to them. And so how could you understand if you don't know the language? So I realized in our discussions that I had to put things that labeled how to define the terms, understand them, and then apply them. So we did blogs, and then I had group discussions where they put things together in groups. And so I used in Blackboard that whole thing called the mashup, which I did some images or pictures, and they can identify things in the picture, or we did slide sharing, which I went online and did a couple of those. And then I did the YouTube videos, because there's so many things you could do with YouTube videos. So many things you learn. You want to learn how to tie your shoelace. It's on a YouTube video. It's amazing what's out there. And then what I ended up doing was I became Blackboard certified, as Dr. Red mentioned. I became distance learning certified. I ended up doing chat rooms, and that was really cool because I didn't have to be there. I can be home or somewhere else and log in for a chat room. But what I found out with the chat room, which was really great, was you had to be able to respond just as quickly as they did, and that was a little challenging. So I came up with little rules. If you submit a question, you have to give me an opportunity to answer it before you submit another one. Because it was, they were throwing stuff at me before I could even finish the first. But we established some good information, and I was able to put up the presentations in the chat room, and they were able to engage. And if they couldn't be there, they could do Skyping. And what I did was I would be in class, and some of the students couldn't make it, but I would have them Skype into the class. And so they would see me, and I would get to see them, and we would be able to engage. So that was the online, tools that helped me to establish some of that. And then I became information literacy, which basically allowed me to use the library, because people don't want to go to the library. So I found ways to use the library resources that was available, and came to a couple of courses in CETLA to learn how to do all of those resources and use the library information. And I made things in my course that allowed them to go to the library and just get some of the resources that they needed. I did the Smart Room certification, which then allowed me to use this Epson interactive Blackboard where you don't need a real whiteboard. You could just use the wall and do all your stuff, and that was really exciting. They kind of loved that. I had the students come up to the board and make diagrams. Actually, I did that with when they had to do the brain. So it's funny because I used some of that to point out some of the things with the brains for them. And then I did the writing across the curriculum. And the reason why that was so helpful for me was because I had them do these discussions on Blackboard, but they were writing like whole paragraphs, pages, and I couldn't keep up with 70 students. So I learned how to limit that. Dr. Red said, have them write 50 words or 25 words or 2 sentences to help streamline what they needed to do. So that was helpful. And then I had them do group with wikis, and that was helpful. Still some things that I need to work on with that, but that was really, what are wikis? It's actually a way to go through a document where everyone participates within the document. So you can make any kind of adjustment. So if someone wrote a paragraph and you wanted to adjust or make any changes with the paragraph, you could do that simultaneously with other people, and so that you could get a great group project or document in place.
If you want to limit the number of words they input, just use Twitter.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess that's the better way. That's true. And so then Integrity came along, and I was one of the first people to test Integrity, and that was great because then I actually videoed my own lectures and used the PowerPoints and voice over my PowerPoints. That was really great. But wanting them to see an image of me or hear me directly moving along the PowerPoint was what I wanted to do. So this is what it generally looks like, and my image didn't show up, but you can go and you can post that. And so if you can't make the class at that particular time, then this would be a way. So all these snowstorms was great for me because they still had work. And so then we came to class and started to discuss what they already had at home with me lecturing to them. So I told them they got a good chance of watching home videos with me. Yeah. So that I used that. And then ended up having this. So what did I do with the extra time? I actually had discussions with them. Now I can talk to the person who's confused, and I can wake up that person who wanted to sleep and get them involved. And so I did role play. So we actually enacted, I do a lot of clinical, my course is in histology, pathology, and so we did role play. A patient comes in with a problem and someone becomes the doctor, someone becomes the assistant, and we actually role play so they can understand the definitions, the terminology a little better. So it gave me time to do things like that, where before I was just lecturing, thinking everybody understood everything, didn't really get to know what they knew and didn't know. And then I can pinpoint from looking on Blackboard with the assessments who was struggling. And then I can use them as the person to play a certain part so they can better understand. And then I did case presentations, because what I found out is people don't like public speaking. I can't believe it. What? You don't like talking in front of people? And so the bottom line is this case presentation allowed me to have them put up a case and then present it, helping strengthen their ability to know how to speak in public, what to say, how to be audible, and how to engage the audience. Then everyone always wanted to know your syllabus because they never read it. This gave a chance for me to go through the syllabus and say, here's the objectives, this is what you're supposed to be learning, this is how you're going to learn, this is what you're going to learn, and this is what you need to give back to me. Things that we never could do before, now I had time to do.